I've been an athlete since I was 5. And from watching gymnastics to basketball to soccer, I've always looked up to these women athletes as role models, especially those that are in the Olympics. And so for my thesis project, I decided to analyze media coverage of women athletes in the 2024 Paris Olympics. And so that leads me to my research question, which is, how do digital media platforms frame and amplify portrayals of women athletes, and what are the impacts of these representations on societal attitudes toward women in sports? And so, why the Paris Olympics, you might ask? It was actually the very first gender equal Olympics. As you can see in the graphic, the very first Olympic Games actually had 0% women. It was in Athens in the 1800s. The first Olympics that had women was in 1900 with only 3 options to compete. And so this was a huge milestone and symbolized this progress that we've made in this specific area of women's sports. And women, because of this, are gaining more opportunities than ever to compete. And are there still areas for growth? Absolutely. But we just have to acknowledge that this is a huge milestone and that we hopefully can only go up from here. The IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee, also outlined specific guidelines of how they were going to ensure this not only equal playing field in the terms of competition, but also for media coverage. And so for my theoretical framework, I'm actually looking at at social media specifically. And so I wanted to find a theoretical framework that I could specifically isolate and study these relationships between my 2 passions of journalism and sports. And so a media ecology approach was very fitting as it looks at the impact of media itself on the ways that people are influenced. And so a pioneer in this area is Marshall McLuhan. He is most known for a few different concepts, but one of these is the medium is the message, which it's very famous, and it basically gives credit to a medium itself, its characteristics, how it functions, over the messages and the content that it spreads. And so to kind of limit my scope on this project as well, I decided to focus on social media. And so, as we know, social media impacts all of our lives on a day-to-day basis. One thing is it is highly accessible. All of us, most of us, have smartphones. Most of us have access to the internet if we don't have a smartphone. And so it's accessible to a wide range of people. Maybe in the past, television not everybody had a TV or not everybody had access to this information. And so it also, with this, as people build a following, it actually puts pressure on the mainstream media, like television, like newspapers, like radio, because the job of those media are to enforce the ideas that are already existent in society. And like I said, this has a very deep cultural impact because more issues, more ideas are visible, and more people are gaining access to these things. And another very important concept from Marshall McLuhan is the idea of a global village. And so this is this idea that new media technologies are actually having this effect of condensing time and space and creating a more interconnected world. It sounds familiar. It sounds like social media. And we are able to communicate in real time. For the first time since before the internet was created, we can respond almost immediately. We can interact with one another. We can share our own perspectives. And this is having a very, very deep and large impact on our society. Another aspect that I briefly touched on is this idea that a global village in these social media and other digital technologies transcend the traditional boundaries of space and time. And so space is a non-factor because people can communicate from vast distances, from across the world, versus, with older media like print, for example, you might be limited by actually having to send a letter or send a newspaper. Also, time is a non-factor because people are communicating basically at the speed of light. As soon as you see it, you can respond. And so again, this is contributing to these global communities. And so let's bring it back to women's sports. The game is changing, not only in terms of the games themselves, but also in terms of media coverage. And so there has been an influx of women on different social media platforms from different countries, from different sports. As you see on this graphic here, there's athletes, these are all United States Olympians, but these are athletes from tennis, from gymnastics, from track, and they're building these huge followings on social media. And with that, with these followings, there's a natural increase in visibility for women athletes and their experiences. And so for the sake of time, I'm actually going to focus on one specific athlete that's made a large impact in this area. Her name is Ilona Maher. Many of you have probably heard of her. She's known for her red lipstick, her hashtag #BeastBeautyBrains, and she really speaks to this intersection of strength, femininity, and being intelligent. And she's propelled the equal, fair, and respectful treatment and representation of women light years ahead. And so not only is she an Olympic medalist, not only is she a former D1 athlete, she is a Sports Illustrated swimsuit cover model. She is a Dancing with the Stars runner-up within the last year. And not only that, she's amassed around 5 million followers on Instagram, around 3.5 million followers on TikTok, and also an additional 40,000 subscribers on YouTube. And so her specific hashtag, #BeastBeautyBrains, let's talk about it. I mentioned that she is exploring these intersections between being a strong athlete. She plays rugby, which is a traditionally known to be a strong sport. She is beauty. She likes to wear her lipstick. She likes to wear makeup. And also she's enforcing that you can be smart too. And so this ties back to my idea of the global village, because who do you guys think, well, first of all, let's talk about the function of a hashtag is a feature of social media that actually brings people together to specific pages where posts are united under a single theme, condensing space, condensing time, and creating this sense of community. And so people that are in this community under this hashtag, maybe they're former athletes, current athletes, young girls that look up to her, maybe they're Olympic spectators. The list goes on, but it is uniting people from across the world. Not only that, but the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, also established 2 different hashtags, Gender Equal Olympics and Change the Game, specific to the Paris 2024 Olympics, also having the same effect, creating this sense of global community. Now, let's look at the numbers. Based on a survey from 14,000 respondents, the majority of people watch women's sports. And not only that, they've become women's sports fans in recent years, within the last 3 years. And they support also not only for the quality of play, but to support the women athletes specifically, and also to follow individual athletes, like Maher, for example. Even CEOs of big companies are noticing these shifts. He says you're having this change as more and more people are bringing their daughters, and more girls want to watch other women play sports. And so looking ahead, it was actually announced a couple of days ago, and I added it to my presentation, that the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics will actually feature more women athletes than men. And so this is showing that not only was this Paris 2024 Olympics monumental in changing media coverage and specifically on social media, but it's also just a platform for progress in the future. And so with my presentation, and this is just a small piece of my research, but it's showing that social media is a tool for global community. And not only that, that other groups can find a voice, they can find visibility using social media if they're not traditionally covered adequately in the traditional news media. And I wanted to say a sincere thank you, first of all, to my beautiful mom that's here from Florida. She flew in for this. And I also want to give a huge thank you to my mentor, Dr. Peter Fallon. He's actually who introduced me to the concept of media ecology and media studies in general. And you've just inspired me, encouraged me so much throughout the process. I'm so grateful for you. And also my now 7 teammates that came to support me. I can't tell you guys, like I got chills when you walked in. I'm so grateful for you guys. And also to Sarah Maria, thank you so much for allowing me to come and ask you questions and for helping me funnel my thoughts, because you guys know my brain can be kind of like everywhere sometimes. And also to my professor, Dr. Michael Boncato. He's not here, he's actually in Baltimore, but he's also been a great guiding force in my project. And also, great job before me. So, and great job to all the other thesis speakers. Thank you, guys.